Good afternoon. My name is Jeanneie Baker-Chin, and I'm the moderator for today's press conference. And we're here today to address the incident that happened yesterday in Buffalo, New York, with a woman, Jeanneie Muhammad, and an individual, Jeffrey Calhoun. The incident happened, and we're here to ask the Erie County District Attorney Flynn to prosecute Jeffrey Calhoun for violating the New York State statute of hate crimes. And we know that we want him to be prosecuted with the fullest extent of the law. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this press conference up to Brother David Calhoun, Brother David Muhammad, so he can address why we're here and in support of his wife.
Once again, good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. What happened to my wife yesterday was a completely heinous, vicious assault that occurred by a man, Jeffrey Calhoun. And we're here once again calling for Erie County District Attorney Flynn to prosecute Jeffrey Calhoun to the fullest extent of the law. Thankfully, what we saw happen yesterday, by God's grace, my wife's life was spared. But this could have gone so wrong in so many different ways. My wife right now has suffered a traumatic episode, a complete overreaction. And it's very unfortunate that right now, because of the political discourse and the social discourse that is taking place from the highest offices in the land right now, there's many individuals across the country who have been enabled and justified in taking this kind of complete overreaction for a minor traffic infraction where no damage occurred to any vehicle. And so we have a chance, a unique chance right here in Erie County to get it right this time. Because we have so many others. We can call the roll of Sandra Bland. We can call the roll of so many others, Trayvon Martin. We can call the roll of Tamir Rice. And if people are sincere about their apologies and about their regrets for how we need to get it right next time and we should have been more careful, we have been given a chance by God to get it right this time and to not co-enable Jeffrey Calhoun and people like him, many copycat people across the nation who apparently feel like they can do these kind of heinous crimes and get away with them because the last person got away with it. And so we're calling for the fullest prosecution, the fullest extent to prosecute Jeffrey Calhoun for hate crimes, for assault, for aggravated assault, for robbery. He reached into my wife's car and took the keys out of the ignition, threw her to the ground several times and swept her feet out from underneath her, pulled a gun out, put a gun on her chest. That's the kind of trauma that you don't get over that overnight. And so put a gun on her chest and then waved the gun at a crowd of people who came out in support or to caution him or to try to defuse the situation. Innocent bystanders who came out to tell him that you can't do that to her. You can't throw her to the ground that way. Now they had a gun waved at them. And so this is a reckless man, a man who is unhinged and who should not even be a gun owner. And so, how does a man like this get a gun? And the interesting thing, one of the interesting things about this is that when the police finally did arrive, he approached the police to surrender to police and reached into his waist. They don't know what's in his waist. Reached into his waist, pulled the gun out, and put the gun on the police car and surrendered, put his hands on the police car. And so, in so many cases, we have seen unarmed black men and black women shot down for not having any gun at all. Here's a man who, thankfully, he was not shot and killed in the streets like so many of our people have been shot. But this is a man who reached in, and so there's a double standard. There's two-tier justice system where he reaches into his disparities, where he reaches in, pulls the gun out, and even though officers did have their guns drawn, in so many cases, we have been shot down for having toy guns and no gun at all. And so, you know, but we have a chance to get it right. We have a chance to send a message that there's zero tolerance for these kinds of acts where you have a big man wrestling and throwing my wife, a woman, to the ground 3 times. And so, you know, that is what we want to come here today to make sure everything is out in the open and transparent. And we want to generate and rally community support to make sure that that the law enforcement does not turn a blind eye and sweep this under the rug. And so, but you know, it's an opportunity for the city of Buffalo, for Western New York, to not be like so many other locations around the country, and get it right this time by prosecuting this man, draw a line in the sand, and prosecute him to the fullest extent of his law. Pardon me? And so at this time, my wife is here now. She is going to tell her story about what happened to her. And so.
Hi, I'd like to thank everybody who came out in support today. Good morning. Thank you for coming to stand with me. These are my sisters here. I want to just, yesterday I was going to pick my children up from school on Colgan Avenue at about 11:30, and I was stopped at a red light behind Mr. Calhoun's truck, and while I was stopped, I guess I accidentally lifted my foot up off the brake, and I bumped his car slightly. And then at that point, he gets out of the car and he looks at his car and he says to me, "You effing, tore up my car." And I said, "I'm sorry." And he goes, "I'm going to call the police, and you're going to stay here until I call the police. Get your insurance out. Get your insurance out the glove compartment because I want to look at it." So when I went to go reach over to get my insurance out of the glove compartment, that's when he reached his hand in the car, snatched my keys out of the ignition, and said that, "I think that you're going to try to run." So he held my keys. And at that point, I got out of the car, and I looked at his car, and I said, "I don't see any damage. Come on, what are you talking about?" And he says, "Well, I'm going to stand here, and I'm going to hold your keys until the police come, because I think you're going to run." I go, "Give me back my keys," and he wouldn't. So I walked around the car. I told him, "I'm going to call my husband right now." And I walked around my car to walk on the sidewalk, and that's when I heard him running after me. And I turned around and I looked, I got a glance, and I saw him running after me, so I kind of like jumped on the sidewalk, up to the sidewalk. And that's when he grabbed me by the back of my hoodie and threw me to the ground. And so we're on the ground and we're wrestling, and he's trying to take my purse from me. And so a gentleman comes, he's driving by and he sees this whole thing, he witnesses the whole thing. And he said, he gets out of his car and he walks over and he goes, "Mister, you can't be throwing that lady around like that. What are you doing?" And he says, "Well, I'm trying to stop her because she hit my car and I don't want her to run." And at this point, the people across the street are yelling, "What are you doing? Why are you manhandling that lady like that? We got you on film." And so I'm on the ground, I get up, and when I get up this time, he's trying to tug my purse from me, and I go, "What are you doing? Why are you trying to take my purse?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, don't try to take her purse, who came to intervene." He said, "Because, leave her alone." And he said, "Well, I'm trying to take her purse because she's gonna run." And he looks at me, the gentleman, and he says, "If he lets you go, will you run?" And I said, "Where am I gonna go? He has my keys. I'm gonna stand right here until the police come." And so at this point, he reaches down, he tries to grab my bag again, and he bites me on the arm. And when he bit me, I did hit him because I wanted him to get off my arm. Right. Because he almost, he was about to break the skin on my arm. And so when I did that, he leans into me and he says, "I'm the police, so you better stand right here and don't move." And I said, "I don't care who you are, get off of my bag, get off of me." And at that point, he reaches and he pulls his gun out. And he shows me his gun first, and then he pulls his gun out, puts it to my chest, and then that's when the lady said, her name is Precious, she lived across the street, she was filming the whole thing. She ran over and she said, you pulled out a gun? You pulled out a gun on the lady? And he said, no, I'm just showing it to her. And she says, no, you pulled out a gun. And so he starts waving the gun himself. And he said, get back, you all are approaching me, get back. And this is when the police came. And at that point, the police come and he just lets my back go and he walks over to the police. He goes in his hoister, pulls out his gun and slams it on the top of the police car. And at this point, they do nothing. They don't pull out a gun. You know, they don't say stop. And the lady who stopped the situation, Precious, she's the one who had to say, he has a gun, he has a gun. Be careful, he got a gun. Oh my God, he has a gun. Because at this point, he's pulling it out to the police. So that was a situation that happened to me. I was very demoralized by it. I'm in a lot of pain. Yesterday I didn't feel the pain, but today my knee is swollen. I have a back issue right now, and I'm having sharp pains on one side of my head. And so, yeah.
So basically, it's like really vigilante behavior. He felt he wasn't able enough to do whatever he felt like doing. And then when the police arrived, he could just, say, okay, I'm fine, everything's fine now.
So, can I also say this? So while he's sitting in a police car, he called me a nigger. He says, and you probably don't have any insurance anyway. So we're having an exchange back and forth, and the police comes over and he goes, you two can't be having this exchange. And he walks me, a little bit down the way so that we can't see each other.
And this is to using those racial slurs against her and the fact that she is an African American woman. And
I'm Jim Anderson. I'm the State Vice President for Citizen Action of New York. My presence here is because whenever our community is under attack, we should respond. Now, I can tell you, like Congressman John Lewis said yesterday, I know racism when I see it, and I know terrorism when I see it. And I think the district attorney needs to understand that, yes, everything that he needs from the verbiage, from the behavior, is there for him to proceed with a much stronger charge. And we're demanding that. We're sick and tired of having families like this have to deal with these kind of situations. And we're expected to somehow just be cool. Not this time. From the White House to the City House and all the occupants in it need to understand, not this time. We're in a different mode. We're here because something needs to be done. Justice has not been served yet. Even the charges are not sufficient.
What are the charges?
Well, you know he hasn't been charged with a hate crime as yet. And for me, what I heard and what I saw requires that. Both hate and the terrorism of his behavior. And I'll tell you something else. While everybody's running around saying if you see something, say something, there's enough on the video to see. And there are people, I dare say, in that community that know that this is not a strange behavior by this person. Walking around in daylight with a gun. Can you imagine the police in this community and somebody say he got a gun? You wouldn't even get a chance. The first thing they're going to do is stay where you're at. They're going to come in you.
Right.
Anyway.
What we do know is that Jeffrey Calhoun was arraigned this morning at 9 a.m. As far as his charges, I'm sure, that'll be, we'll hear more information, but we can only report on what we actually know. We don't know what charges.
True.
Do you have?
I actually have.
I have it right here.
Oh, you got it?
But listen, but
Okay, so
I'll
what
wait
we'll
for
do right
questions.
now is that we'll open up right now for some questions.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
You can say who are you directing the question?
Well, anyone wants to answer it, and I think, maybe you all have thought too.
Do you mind sharing the charges before you ask the question?
Well, sure, I can share with you that the charges were attempted robbery in the first
Attempted
degree,
robbery and what?
menacing in the second degree, and harassment in the second degree.
Did everybody get that?
I'm sure they all, well,
Okay, if you say it, I'll repeat after what you just said.
attempted robbery in the first degree,
Attempted robbery in the first degree,
menacing in the second degree,
menacing in the second degree,
harassment in the second degree.
harassment in the second degree.
All right, so the district attorney's office could charge him with a hate crime because they have to have a specified offense, and at least one of those meets it, it's menacing. And they may take some time to look at all the facts before deciding whether this rises to the level of a hate crime, because the other part of this is that somebody it has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt that someone's race or creed, religion, whatever, was the motivating factor. It's not enough for someone of a different race to assault someone and be charged with a hate crime. You know that. Yeah. So, we're talking to the DA. It seems that they're waiting to gather all the facts before they decide if they're going to do that. But I mean, how disappointed will you be if he decides, I can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt, absent some statement by this individual during the action they took,
Or witnessing, or statements from the police
or
officer.
statements from anyone who may have. So, absent of that, there may not be a hate crime charge, because it just may not meet the statute.
I'm very clear, I'm clear about the charging. When I say should be charged with a hate crime, I'm not the DA. That's, I could be like a street lawyer like everybody else. But the fact of the matter is, I do know within all those departments, police and district attorney's office, they know how to dig down, they know the dog whistles that signify what it is. And in this case, they do not need to fail. As you heard the minister say, they can get it right this time. And that's all we're saying. And we're saying it very clearly out front right now, not no days later, so they can figure out another game plan, not accusing them of anything. But we've been to this movie before. Too many of us.
And the thing is, and what we all know, is that if we did not have a video, we would not be here. It would just be one person's word against the other. And time after time, we have not had video, and nothing happened. And then we do have video, and still nothing happens. So we need to move beyond that and do whatever we need to do to prosecute these individuals who feel they can continue to proceed in this behavior because there are no consequences for their actions.
How could it be if a person brandishes a weapon, that they unholster a deadly weapon to be used in defense or in the death, that they fear for one's life? Now you're telling me that a person gets charged with robbery and menacing, and they unsheath their weapon, a deadly weapon, and then they use that weapon to accost someone, and also it created disturbance within the neighborhood, it created anxiety within the neighborhood, and this gentleman is walking free. It accosted a sister, and he's walking, or just the charges of menacing and robbery. That, are you serious? And he's known to have this type of behavior in the neighborhood.
So
He prowls the neighborhood and does this, and all he gets is robbery.
So here we see right now happening right before our eyes, an attempt to cakewalk this whole episode. There is a charge called assault with a deadly weapon. There is assault called battery, or aggravated assault. None of those charges were mentioned. My wife was thrown to the ground 3 times. She had to get up and collect herself. He swept her feet out from underneath her a third time and threw her to the ground. So there's no aggravated assault. There's no assault and battery. There's no assault with a deadly weapon. And so it seems like it's almost, they want to cakewalk this right in front of our faces. And so, that's how we see a double standard going on right now. And we're just saying, to the fullest extent of the law. They are the lawyers. He is the DA. They have more resources and more knowledge about the law than we do. But even we in this room know that there's a lot of charges left out of what the gentleman just read to us.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, was there a reason that there was no unlawful imprisonment charge? Because he kept her from moving freely. Just because you're an offender bender and you think she's gonna run, if she runs, well, then you just write her license plate number down. You don't have the right to detain her.
Right.
Exactly.
So we see the least possible charges that were even mentioned, and that's why we're having this press conference here today. So we're saying the fullest extent of the law. We don't want to seize on hate crime or try to isolate or single out. We want the fullest extent of the law in every case and in every circumstance that happened to my wife. Yes.
Based on the situation where he used the slur against you, ma'am, was any of that, based on your knowledge, caught on camera when he used the N-word that you had mentioned earlier when he was in the car detained by police at that time?
I'm not sure if it was or not. I didn't see it. Well, this sister was the one who filmed it, so.
But police asked him to stop recording and show them the video. That's why they did other incidents. Whatever else happened, they asked me to stop recording and let me see the phone. Otherwise, I wouldn't got the whole thing.
But you were witness, you heard it.
Yes, I
Yes,
was.
and there were sound bites in
Also
there
kept saying,
that
you
are
people-
clearly, go ahead.
People came up to me, you people did this, you people did that. Us people tried to stop a man from attacking a woman, and we got a gun put in our face. And I appreciate
Precious.
it. Yes, thank you.
So are there charges regarding you too, as well as Ms. Muhammad?
You know how many times we've seen on many of your channels, the district attorney get on air because of a situation and talking about we will do just what the minister said, to bring the full weight of his office on it. That's all we say.
What we want to do
At
now-
any
if we-
point-
Okay, go ahead.
At any point during this entire thing, was there any racial, anything said other than what you just said was said when you were when he was in the police car? In the beginning, while you were on the ground, I mean, what actually was said to you?
He just said, I want to stop you. I think that you're going to try to run. And when he said the racial epithet, he said it while he was in the police car. And there was a police officer standing there who heard it. That's in my police report. He heard it, and he said, you guys can't have an exchange. I'm going to walk you down there, away from them, so you can't talk to each other. So
And-
he actually heard it.
And in support of Mrs. Muhammad, we've seen so many different sound bites and things on in the media that show aggressive behavior by a black woman. The black woman is the most disrespected human being on the planet. And the fact that he thought he could do that, and the fact that her response was still so mild. She never raised her voice as far as calling him, retaliating, and she could have hit him a lot way sooner than she did when he was trying to bite her. I mean, a human bite is worse than an animal bite. And I didn't even know that he actually bit her until her testimony. Okay, so but the fact that this woman could contain her composure, hold her purse with a gun in her face, and the fact that these are the only charges that came up, it wasn't that she was aggressive. I mean, they say, she was aggressive or she retaliated or he had just cause for that behavior. She was defending herself. The individuals came to help defend her, and his only defense was his gun. To me, he's a vigilante behavior person on the loose, and we all should be afraid.
I think it's also important that we talk about the mindset that makes a person who is bumped from behind feel comfortable that he can reach into a car, take someone's keys, even if it was an accident. That accident didn't even require police to come. That accident could have been handled with two people exchanging insurance. It didn't require no police presence at all. He felt comfortable to be able to reach into her car, take her keys, and force her to wait for the police. She didn't have a legal responsibility necessarily to wait for the police. And it's not person. He's a person with a weapon, feeling comfortable provoking someone. Think about what you would be doing to somebody in your car. Somebody reaching over, taking your keys, and he has a weapon. And then, not only does he do that, he grabs her and holds her.
Yes.
Stop asking her about what she's thinking. What is this man thinking? He felt like that was all right. See, that's where our concern gotta be. He felt that he could do that, and then had the audacity to say, I'm gonna wait for the police. So what was he gonna tell the police? I reached in, took her keys, and then held her? He wasn't worried about what the police was gonna do to him. He was confident about what they was gonna do to her.
That's
And
right.
he was holding her for that.
That's right.
That mindset is not all right. That's where the problem is at, the mindset. Them nuanced details y'all asking for is way after the fact.
Tell it.
Flip the whole script.
That mindset that made him off, that mindset is coming from the White House down to a man getting hit in the back of the car. That mindset is what we gotta confront. That's not all right.
And I just want to say also, to add to what Brother Sam said, that my wife is not on the witness stand. It's too often that a man gets killed, a woman gets killed, and then they do a drug test on the victim. But they don't drug test the person who actually inflicted crime and killed the person. So they'll do a drug test on Trayvon Martin's book bag and find if there's a trace of anything wrong or any type of, we sit here and split hairs about what did you do? What did you say? This man put a gun to my wife's chest, assaulted my wife, committed burglary, robbery, strong arm robbery, and you have the most least charges that you can think of that we just read from, that we just got heard from. So I don't want anybody here to be complicit in this, putting the victim on the witness stand, scrutinizing the victim when a man pulled a gun out and put a gun to her chest.
And after
he had a weapon.
we had a weapon, and it changes the narrative for every black woman driving down the street. My daughter saw the video, and at first it was the black male. Now we have to worry about being an offender bender. Don't get out the car. She was sitting in the car, he reached in. She couldn't even stay in the car to protect herself. So we want to hear from this young lady.
I do have a question. To be clear, the request is for the DA to charge the highest possible charges, which would allow them to take it to trial and prove each element, during which, if they prove elements of lesser charges and are unable to reach the hate crime or highest aggravated assault, they can still convict based on those lesser charges. I don't think your request is unreasonable, but I also want that to be clear that that's what you all are asking.
The fullest extent of the law.
The fullest extent. I wonder, you mentioned about hearing verbiage. Well, I saw in the video and I heard some verbiage. And I would ask you to ask any person of color around here, when they hear the term use people, what does it mean? I would even ask you to think to yourself, when you hear people using a term like use people, you figure out where you think it lines up at.
Yeah,
I know, I'm not putting it on you.
I'm not.
No, I'm not putting it on you.
We're just trying to put together.
I know, I'm just saying that for the record, that, sometime when you want to know what are the ingredients that help to levitate those charges, that's why I said in the beginning that the DA's office knows the various dog whistles that signify those charges. We're not telling them what to do. We're just saying, like you get on the air and say about every other case, to the fullest extent of your office.
I don't think our requests are reasonable, but we want to hear from Precious. She's the one that we want to commend for taking that. And I know she put her own life at risk, because when I heard the video and I heard someone say, I don't want to get shot. But when you saw what was happening to her, you were very selfless in your act. So you can
sit there and watch. I was in my house minding my own business. Near the window watching TV, I heard a lady steady saying, get off me, get off me. So I went to the window out and I saw 2 men and 1 woman. That's when I went on my porch to see what exactly was going on. I thought she was a shoplifter. I saw the man's gun. I thought he was a security guard trying to stop her. And that turned out not to be the case. They were tussling for a while. I was telling him to stop so I could call the police. And I saw him bend down to bite her. And that's when I just lost it. I jumped out all my steps, ran across the street, didn't even look both ways. And they let me go across the street, and I asked him, why are you doing this, sir? Why are you doing this? I can't even watch the video, because what man in their right mind would do that to a woman?
Thank you.
And that gun was fully loaded. When he pulled it out, it was not on safety, and all I was trying to do was tell him to get off of her, get off her bag, let her go. Why are you doing this? And all he said was, you people are running up, you're running up on me, you people. And we just wanted him to get off this lady. That's all we wanted. And we got put in our face. We got yelled at by the police when we were screaming. He's got a gun in his hand. That's what I was saying. He's got a gun in his hand. And they were screaming, back up, back up.
You to back up.
Yes, and they were so nice to this man. They were so nice to this man. And I just couldn't believe it.
Can you elaborate more on how nice they were? What actually happened?
I don't
to
know
make
what
you
they
say
were
that?
saying to him, but they were not hostile. They were in a low calm voice. When I walked up and said, he's got a gun, and I pointed at him, they said, back up, back up. Their voices elevated. The hostility in their voice to me and this lady. And she was the one who was attacked. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I was hurt. I was really hurt.
And what was their tone and what did they say to him?
I don't know what they said to him because they told me to back up and get away. That's when another officer walked me and her down the street, so we couldn't hear what they were saying to him or what was his defense. But I asked them, I said, was that gun loaded? She said, yes, it was. I said, was it on safety? She said, no, it was not. And she said he had a pistol permit, but the gun was not concealed. When I first went over there, as you can see in the video on the porch, I saw that he had a gun. His shirt was tucked inside the holster, not over it. And that's just not right. You can't go around intimidating people with a gun.
And it's almost the depraved indifference. This man was expecting the police to come help him.
Exactly.
I mean, the mindset was he felt like the police were going to come and do something for him after he had committed a crime. He was calling the police after he committed the crime. There was no crime that took place prior to him grabbing her. Prior to him putting his hand in the car, there was no crime that took place. It's not a crime to hit somebody in the back. That's not a crime. It's a traffic infraction. So he had no right, but he felt like he had a right. And now here we are talking about it as if that's secondary. And I'm saying that has to be primary. Because if we ain't confronting that thinking going on in people's mind, people will feel like they get to do that, and then it'll get worked out in the court. You don't even get to do that. You don't get the fact that you think it and do it and got a weapon. That's where the problem is at. And so we as a community got to come to terms with the fact that that really happened. This ain't happened. This ain't TV. This ain't no soap opera. This is the real deal. A man reached in the car and took her keys and then held her and called the police to come help him. He was never under no. What was the police helping him do? Get a police report for his insurance company? I mean, what was the police helping him do?
And not to mention that when the police did finally come, they treated the blacks with hostility.
And we can't even begin to talk about the significance of the fact that somebody with a gun, while somebody is screaming, he has a gun, and nobody says stop, freeze, don't move, get on the ground. He started walking.
Police protocol.
White people saying he got a gun, and then he walks up and he reaches for his gun. Nobody say stop.
Nothing.
He pulls his gun out, put on the thing. All I'm saying, that double standard. See, the mindset that we talking about is, people think we're making this stuff up. Now you got a video camera showing how when a black person, here's a white man, he wasn't even thinking about the consequence of walking. I have to tell my sons, the police get around you like that, weapon or not weapon, you gotta stop. He didn't feel like he had to stop. He could call the police. He didn't feel like he had to stop. He felt like he could walk. He felt like he could reach for his gun. We can't even reach for our license. This man felt like he could reach for his gun.
With a delay, it was
And nobody flinched. We didn't even hear a noise.
Maybe we should flip it around. That's what we will DA work with this family. This family is traumatized. In fact, this community is traumatized. This
Look at that video and said, what is happening? What do we need to do to protect ourselves? Because a calm, mild, soft-spoken woman did not have a chance in this incident. So before we close, I want to know if Mrs. Calhoun, do you have a closing statement that you want to say before we bring this press conference to a close?
Yes, I would like to just thank Precious for saving my life. She showed up as an angel. Had she not been there, I don't know what would have happened, because she really de-escalated the situation. And I just want to say, I would like for the DA to make this a precedent also. I would like for it to stop here, because nobody knows when it's going to be them next. I never thought it would be me. And so I never thought I would be, someone would point a gun to me and tell me don't move or don't run. And so, you know, and the ironic thing is, I was going to pick up my daughters, as I said earlier. And so I had to send them a text message to tell them to catch the bus home because I have an emergency. And they decided to walk because it's only 15 minutes from their school to my house. And they walked right past the situation on the same street and didn't even know it was me because there were so many police cars there. And some woman on Precious side of the street said to them, girls, you should be careful because there's a crazy man out here with a gun. And they started walking faster. But they knew somehow that it was me, but they couldn't see me because of all the police cars that were there. And so I would just like, again, for there to be a precedent, and I would like the DA to, the buck stops here. You know, any one of us can go outside and this could happen to us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming.